This is the jpeg2RAW podcast. I'm Mike Howard. I'm broadcasting from the basement of Knob Studios here in sunny and hot Atlanta. jpeg2RAW is a photography podcast for the amateur photographer. You can find us on the web at www.knobstudios.com, and you can contact the show by emailing us at podcast@knobstudios.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Flickr, and Twitter by searching for jpeg2RAW, or just follow the links on our website. This is show number 20, and tonight we have our usual co-host, Tim Kemperle.
Good evening,
Tim,
everybody. Very good, very good.
We have returning co-host, Kathleen Bowie.
Hi,
How you
fellas.
doing, Kathleen? And then we have our special guest returning, Morgan Kervin. How you doing, Morgan?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Morgan. We're excited to have you.
Yes, glad to have you
Thanks
back.
for having me back again.
Yeah, oh yes, we definitely wanted to have you back. And right now we're fighting through a few Skype issues that are, typical issues. We have Skype issues. But before we get into our featured guest, Morgan, I wanted to follow up on something from last week. I know that my truck broke down right as I was driving home before the show Saturday, Tuesday, whatever it was. And it was, something I had since 1995. So it was time to get something new. And I got a new 2012 Toyota Tundra with a crew cab.
It's really, really beautiful.
It is nice. It's much more power than what I had before. I am loving it. I actually enjoy the ride into work and the ride home every day, and I'm sad when I get to both places.
Okay, but you do know that with the brand new car, if you happen to run out of gas and it's at a church parking lot, that means you have to go next Sunday because there are no excuses.
and she says that because in high school, on my very first date, my car broke down in front of a church.
Right. Yeah, sure.
It did? Why?
That's the last place you want it to break down on a date.
Yeah, really.
Why on a date would I intentionally have my car break down at a church, Tim? I mean,
I hope not.
What was I didn't say this last week, but what the final part of that was, so I pick up the girl, and it was a Ford Escort was what I picked her up in. And, of course, the dad does the usual grilling of me, which I expected. You know what I brought her home in? Because, the car broke down. My parents had to come and give me their car so I could bring her home. A station wagon.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so I didn't have a second date with that girl.
Yeah, I would guess not.
But, and then, of course, my 4Runner broke down in front of her church last week. So that's why Kathleen's talking about that.
Hopefully the new car doesn't break down anymore.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have many years of good luck.
I hope so. Next thing is I want to talk about a couple of news stories. We have just two, so I won't spend a lot of time on it.
Okay, what are they?
But Nikon has released a new strobe, new speed light, the Nikon SB 9100. And, I have the SB 800s. So this is, the 900 came out before. This is the new SB 910. And, of course, these things are not cheap. I don't remember mine costing this much, but they were $500, something like $550 for one of these things.
Wow.
That's a lot of money for a flash.
Yeah, it does add a few nice features. One that you would think that would have been in flashes forever, and that is, if you ever take a flash and just start firing away with it, you could literally burn the flash out.
Oh, yeah.
And if you talk to anybody who's uses these a lot and have taken a lot of photos with them, you can fry the flash and really damage it. This one has built into it a feature that it will shut itself off well before it fries itself, which is something you thought that should have happened, a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
I actually had that happen to me about, I want to say about 6 months ago. I was taking a lot of off-camera flash photography, and after a while, it just stopped flashing, and I guess it must have had, and I don't know if mine has it or not, but it stopped flashing, and it was hot as anything. So I'm guessing there must have been some sort of circuitry preventing it from burning itself out.
That makes sense. Morgan, do you ever use a flash on your camera?
I do whenever I'm doing something inside, usually just snapshot type of things. And I bounce it off the ceiling or the wall.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that too, Morgan. You bounce it off the ceiling or the wall, and then it doesn't look like it's a flash.
Right.
No.
And then
Right.
for people out there that are new to flash photography, bouncing it's a great way if you have to use a flash to make it look a little bit natural, but you need to be careful the surface that you're bouncing it off of. It needs to be a white surface. Otherwise, whatever color you bounce it off of, like if it's a painted ceiling, let's say it's blue, then there will be a blue cast to all of your photographs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And these things have that little pop-up card in them. So like whenever you are pointing it straight up, there's also a little card that can come up out of the flash. It's a white card.
That's awesome.
And that thing will throw a little bit of light straight toward your person and get those catch lights in the eyes.
Okay.
The other thing this thing has is you've heard of gels where you can put a gel in front of the flash and give it a different color, a tungsten gel or whatever else. The new gels for this flash somehow interact with the flash, and then the flash tells the camera, this is the color I'm using, and then changes the white balance on the camera.
Wow, that's
pretty fancy.
That is really fancy.
That's probably why it costs $550.
But would that defeat the purpose, though, if it's going to change the white balance to adjust for the...
Yeah, I'm sure that there's a setting that you would have to change because you may not want it to do that.
Right.
Right, because it might be what you're looking for.
Balance.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, the next news story is not so happy. So let me ask you guys here, and you guys out in chat can think about this too. How many people are using Adobe Photoshop CS5, the latest version of Photoshop?
I'm using it.
I'm
Sam?
using it.
I am.
Okay, so everybody on here is using the absolute latest Photoshop. Is anybody out in chat not using the latest Photoshop? And the reason I ask is Adobe is announcing a new policy on upgrades. So if you're like me, I don't always upgrade every version. So I might go CS2, wait a while, then go CS5. So I skip versions because I don't want to pay for that every year.
Right.
Well, they're now coming out and saying if you don't own CS5, you don't get the upgrade price to CS6.
Oh my.
And
I mean, it's very strategic marketing on their part, but it really stinks for people who don't upgrade every year. I don't necessarily see a purpose of upgrading unless there's something new in the new Photoshop version that I will personally use. Because a lot of times it's stuff that I don't even ever touch.
right,
I
and
agree.
that's why I skip.
I agree, and it's awful expensive to step up. If you're going to buy the full version, you're talking $600 to $800 because now there's two versions of CS5. You got, I think, it was the extended version as well with the video in it. That's not something most people can touch. I'm lucky my wife's a teacher, so I use her to get an educational discount, and it's usually the price of the upgrade. But to say just the previous version, if they would have said, you know what, if you had CS3, you can upgrade to CS6, I could live with that, or like CS3 and CS4 and CS5. But just to say just the previous version, that's going to annoy a lot of people.
Do you know, Mike, if Lightroom is going to be affected by this as well, or is it just going to be Photoshop?
In their thing, they just said Photoshop Creative Suite.
Okay.
But, we'll see how much heat they take. Because have y'all heard of Scott Kelby before?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, he's huge. And he is the president of the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, NAPP. And I think there are like 70,000 plus members. I got his letter pulled up in chat. So he has some influence, where, I don't. But Scott has some influence over Adobe, and he is pushing them hard to reconsider this policy.
That's smart because I might be speaking too soon to say this, but there are a lot of companies out there that are chomping at the bit to take Photoshop's place in the photography world. And with Photoshop requiring this amount of cash out of photographers' pockets in order to stay on the brink of things, that's going to leave a little bit of an open door for someone else to swoop in with a comparable product that doesn't require you to spend as much money on it.
That's right. Yep, exactly.
And sadly, Adobe knows they are the premier product for this. There really is nobody out there that is in the same league, and I'm not sure if somebody's going to come up, but you know what? I'm sure Apple iPhone thought nobody was going to touch them, and now Android surpassed them. So
Yeah, well, the one thing, is everybody knows I'm not a big Apple fan, but that said, while they may not have the majority of the market anymore, they do make a ton of money off that. You don't have to be the leader to make a ton of money.
Still make a lot of money.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
that's one thing Apple does. Now, you're right. A better analogy may be who was at BlackBerry, who thought they were untouchable.
Yeah.
And now they're just going to die a slow death. Photoshop. I mean, Adobe is not necessarily BlackBerry, but you're right, Kathleen. That if you start upsetting your customers that much, somebody else may develop something. But it's going to be a while because Photoshop is just so good.
It is.
I'll tell you, I mean, Kathleen, you probably use it a lot more than I do. Morgan, you as well. If I use 20% of Photoshop, I'm probably lucky.
Right.
Yeah, and
There's just so much in it.
Rachel in chat brings up a good point. It may also encourage them to encourage people to get illegal copies.
Totally. Of course it will.
Yeah.
I think that people are looking for a reason to justify not buying it. And it's still not a reason not to justify actually purchasing a legal copy, but people will for sure use that as an excuse.
Absolutely. Okay, so now let's head into our feature, which is Morgan.
Hello.
And Morgan, I think the first question we got to answer that everybody wants to know is something we didn't talk about last show. And I knew about it last show, but I didn't want it to distract because regardless of what we're about to talk about, it doesn't change who you are, how good of a photographer you are, and how well you ran your business. None of that changes. And I didn't really want that as a discussion last time, but I think it's something we need to talk about this time. And that is, you have chosen to step back, at least for a while, from running your business, your photography business. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what it means?
Well, I'm not quitting entirely, so we're all good there. What I'm going to continue to do is I will occasionally do sessions that I want to do just for me. A big part of the issue is that it takes up so much time, just the editing, all the client proofing and the befores and the afters and just all the details take up so much time that with both my children being so young that I'm really missing out on the pivotal moments in their life that I can't get back. I can't ever make them this small again. The things I'm doing for other clients, capturing it and keeping them there, I'm not doing the same for myself. So I am stepping back from photographing other people, at least for business, for about a year and a half or so, just so I can spend more time with my family. That way, whenever I do come back, I will be full force, know exactly what I need to do instead of trial and error like I did this time and like most people do. So when I come back, I'm going to have full knowledge of the way I need to do things in order to be the most profitable business that I can possibly be. Whenever I stop taking clients, well, actually, I still have at least 2 emails a day requesting my services, even though they know I've stepped down.
Yeah.
So I do still have clients that come to me and ask me to make exceptions for them. And, I'm tempted. I won't lie, I'm tempted because a lot of it's, I want to do this. And I'm not totally stopping because I will take occasional clients. But I'll be extremely picky when I do.
Right. Morgan, people love what you do for them. And so they're going to ask you. It's getting a tough skin to be able to say no because you're probably going to have to say no quite a bit.
Yes. And Yaz out in chat asked if I'm worried I'll lose my client base. The wonderfully bad thing about living where I live is that I'm at a military base. So my client base completely is turned out every 2.5 to 3 years.
Yeah. You're always
So
looking for new clientele.
Yes. So I really don't have to worry about my client base because they're all going to be gone in, just a few years, and I'm going to have to start all over again anyhow.
Right. Right. Well, and I think part of your client base is probably very similar to other photographers in the sense that, newborn photographers, they usually do, newborn to a year. And then after that, that client goes away, but that client will pass the photographer's name on to another new client. And I'm sure people follow you and know what base you're at. And they're like, oh, you're at the same base as Morgan Kervin. You need to give her a call. She's a great photographer.
Yeah.
Well, I think that could be part of what Yaz's question is. Are you concerned that you're going to lose some of the people where in 2 years from now, let's say you said you come back a year and a half from now, will people forget who you were and now you're going to have to reestablish yourself, which probably won't take a lot of time anyway, but.
Absolutely not. I'm not falling off the map. I'm still engaging my clients. Like I said, I'm still going to do a shoot from time to time. It may be one a month. It may be none for a few months. I typically take off January through March anyhow. So I'm really not losing that amount of time. But I'm still going to put myself out there. I'm still going to show images. And I have a great network of mommies that, that do talk about me all the time, and I'm helping other photographers. I'm mentoring 4 photographers right now here locally, and then through my workshop, I'm also mentoring other photographers around the country. So I'm definitely not by any means falling off the map.
Rachel asked, what about today's up-and-coming photographers? They may be new today, but when you come back, you will have them as your competition. Are you worried about that?
Not at all. My style is completely different from what other photographers are going to be like. So no matter how many new photographers come up, which there are so many right now anyway, that a client's going to come to me because they want me. It's not going to be about what's, the new fad or prices or anything. My clientele are the ones who hire me for me. So competition, it's not really a competition, whereas it's more just finding the right clients for you.
I agree with you, Morgan. I never have ever seen fellow photographers as competition myself. I've never been stuck in a rut where I'm not getting photo shoots. And so until that day comes, then maybe I would. But I just see it as kind of like an office mate. We're all kind of in the trenches together,
But do you guys see them? Do you have a lot of competitors?
Go ahead, Morgan.
Locally, there are around less than 5 that are technically proficient in what they do and have a good solid client base. The rest of them are honestly doing it for $20 and calling it a day. Whereas my clients deserve an experience, and it's an overall thing, and there are only a handful of those here, and they've been well established either here or at a previous place where I've known about them.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but it's the competition. Depending on where you live, you may have more or less competition, and it's you got several different things. One is Morgan and Kathleen, y'all's photos speak for themselves. They're excellent quality. Y'all do excellent work. But the strange thing is that people aren't willing to pay for that. They're going to look at, but you charge this. I can get somebody else that, in their mind, will do just about as good, and for a lot cheaper. How do you deal with that? And the reality is it's not comparable photos all the time, but people don't always see the quality.
My clients aren't those clients.
Okay.
Right. My answer exactly.
And I guess sometimes you just have to be willing to walk away. You don't want to drop your prices to match everybody else's all the time, because that may not be the best business idea.
Right.
Well, I think having built up the clients and obviously the fact that you keep getting calls, your work speaks for itself. They see what kind of photographer you are, what kind of pictures you're producing, and they're pleased with it. They tell other people, so your work speaks for itself.
And one thing, Kaylee, I think that's how you pronounce her name. If I'm saying it wrong, sorry. But she had said something about, well, you can just edit your photos at night when your family goes to bed, because that's what she's doing. She's actually from Germany. She lives in Germany, and I think it's like 1 or 2 a.m. over there right now, and her family is asleep, and she's editing. So, eventually, I guess sometimes she has to sleep. So, I mean, that plan may not work out for everybody. So, Morgan, that's kind of where you're at as far as, a lot of people were asking, are you leaving the business? And you're not leaving the business. You're just doing things a little bit differently. So, what are you doing right now? You mentioned workshops and stuff.
Yes, I am doing workshops. A lot of the questions in email that I get are, will I mentor someone because they want to know how to shoot manual, or it's a lot of moms here that got a camera for Christmas or after tax season, and they want to know how to work it. They want to know how to be able to get decent quality images of their children on their own whenever they don't have time or money to hire somebody. So what I have done is, it took me quite a bit of time to do it, but it's a 6 weeks course, and I have the first lesson of the week is a long, big lesson of a couple of different things broken down. And then we have a midweek lesson where it goes more in depth on what was already touched on in the first lesson. And there's also a forum in there so that we can talk about things and if they have other questions. And it's just a great way to completely learn exactly what someone needs to do when they're starting out.
That sounds wonderful, Morgan. I would even say, I've been in the industry for 9 years, but I've never taken an official course of anything. And, I always sit there wondering, like, the shot looks great to me, but what am I missing that I don't even know about, So taking a course like that would be really helpful, because I'm sure there'd be gaps that would be filled in. No matter if you're completely new in the industry or maybe even been around before but not had the traditional training.
Right. I go over everything from your focal points, back button focusing, histograms, the basics of exposure, and then down to the composition, leading lines, the symmetry of an image, lighting for outside, different lighting conditions, and just everything you could possibly need to know when you first start out. Whenever you're stepping into manual, what you need to know in order to get it right.
It sounds wonderful. How much are you charging for your workshop?
It is a one-time fee of $60 for the 6 weeks course. Currently, it's on sale because my birthday is in a week.
Oh, wow.
Happy birthday early.
Happy birthday.
So,
thank you.
The workshop, is this a one-on-one thing? Is this a pre-recorded thing, and then you give feedback, or how does that work?
It's a little bit of both. What it is the course is already laid out in text with examples and illustrations, and then also you get to interact in the forum. So you can share information with other people. Maybe there's someone in the course that is also in the same location you are, and you guys can get together. And then also once a week we have an assignment that I give that has to do with the lesson of the week. And they send it in to me, and I look it over their XF data, and I give them feedback on how they're doing, what they need to work on, and what is working.
It sounds very, very helpful.
That is, because one of the things I think a lot of people struggle with, probably we all do. It's probably not limited to just newbies, new beginners, is getting honest feedback on your photography, because you may think that, wow, that's a great shot, I love this shot, but what you need is someone to tell you what's wrong with the shot. I think that's what's so valuable is you can tell me what you like about it, what is good about it, but telling me where I could improve it is where I'm going to learn and grow from.
Exactly. I was just having a very heated discussion with a photographer, I think it was yesterday or a few days ago, that don't take your friend's opinion. Don't take just your client's opinion. You need an unbiased, technically proficient person that doesn't know you, has no ties to you, to tell you what they honestly think. Someone that doesn't care if your feelings get hurt.
Yeah.
Right. Yep, it's much more helpful. I have a quick question for you, Morgan. Have you ever taken any workshops yourself?
Say that again. Sorry, you were cutting out.
Sorry. Have you ever taken any workshops yourself?
Not in person, but online. I took what is it? The You Can Do? That's what it is. The Sandy Putsch. She started her her little online classes to get, I think, 1,000 photographers certified through PPA. And I got in there it was after I was already established, but I wanted to, touch on other things and learn things that I maybe didn't learn on my own.
Right. And that Rachel asked that question about what do you think about becoming PPA certified?
And what is PPA?
That Professional Photographers of America.
Okay. In case somebody didn't know.
Obviously, Mike and I didn't know that one.
I've actually heard of it. I just wanted to ask.
Oh, okay.
I definitely plan on doing that over the course of my off time.
Right. Yeah. That'll be a good one for your to-do list.
Yes.
One question about the 6-week course, though. Are you required to complete it within the 6 weeks? Can you take your time at doing it? How much time in a week would you have to spend on it? Let's put it that way.
Throughout the course, if you do get behind, like, you can't speed ahead, because the part of the thing is that you need the basic information and then you need time to process it. Because if you just skip ahead, you're going to miss vital steps and you're going to go back and you're going to get mad and frustrated. So you have to soak it in so that you can apply the next part of the work of the course to what you're already doing. So you have to learn, you have to take it in baby steps. But with that being said, when you can take the first lesson, which is on, like, say, a Monday, and then the midweek lesson is, say, on a Thursday. And then you can go back from the Thursday lesson and you can go back to the Monday lesson. And then as the next week goes, you can go back to the previous pages as well, to learn to put it all together. And if you need a refresher on anything, you're more than welcome to go back and look, but you just can't skip ahead.
How much do you think the time commitment would be every week?
Say that again.
What would the time commitment be every week?
That depends on how dedicated they are to really practicing.
Okay.
Reading time, not a whole lot of time. It's maybe 10 minutes of reading, but they have a lot that they have to implement on their own. I'm giving them the tools; they just have to use them.
Because I would think, like for myself, I could see where I would love to take the course, but I may not find the time over the 6 weeks to complete it. What if I wanted to do it over 8 weeks instead of 6 weeks?
I do have an exception to my rules. And so if someone comes to me and they're like, I just do not have the time, can I extend it? Absolutely. That is not a problem at all, because I understand life gets in the way. Things happen. And I have no problem extending things like that for people.
How do you have a set limit to how many people you'd want to have doing a course at one time?
Absolutely. I certainly couldn't have 100 people and be able to give them honest, concentrated feedback on what they send me. So I do have a number for each class, depending on what's going on in my life, that I'm able to dedicate to them.
Mm-hmm. It sounds great.
Yeah, something that I think if you're getting into the business, or even not in a business, just somebody starting out, it's at $60. It's definitely a reasonable price, and can be very valuable and help your photography along.
Well, and you get to do it in the convenience of your own home as well. I know that here in Atlanta, you can go down and take some courses, but it's more expensive than that, and then you have to leave your house and go into a classroom setting.
$60 is more than reasonable. I mean, I think I live up here in New York, and I can't think of anything I could do for $60.
Right.
No. And like she said, she's running a special through December 13th for only $44. 44.40.
It's 26% off because I'll be 26.
26. I remember that.
Well, let's put it this way: if you sign up before December 13th, when would you? Do you have to start the course right away? Can you wait till after the holidays?
It is for the discount is for the January 15th course and the March 1st course.
Okay.
I am going to have to look into that.
Yeah, I got it up, and I'm trying to make it big in chat. So now she's accepting classes starting registration for classes starting January 15th and March 1st. One-time fee of $60. You can see it in chat now. Yeah,
and
somebody
said
said.
Show notes.
Somebody saying Morgan is so young.
You are young, Morgan.
Thank you. I'm getting older though.
Before you know it, 30 will be here.
Oh, don't say that. My husband's almost 30, and I always tease him. He's a cradle robber.
Well, you'll be 30 before you know it. Okay.
Yeah.
Dreading.
I have another question for you that's on a totally different topic. Is that okay, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I saw that you use the Square Perfect studio lights. And I was wondering, how many do you typically use, and then where do you position them?
Can you say that one more time? You were cutting out on me.
Sure.
Before you say that, let me ask a question. Morgan,
Okay.
you wouldn't happen to have your phone sitting on your desk, would you?
I do. Do you need to move it?
Well, I think you got it on vibrate, and we can hear the vibrations every now and then.
Oh, gotcha.
So if it was just on something soft, it probably wouldn't come through. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Ray, Kathleen, go ahead and ask your question again.
I saw on your website that you use the Square Perfect light system, and I was wondering, how many lights do you typically use, and where do you position them around your subject?
That is dependent on what type of session it is. For newborns and toddlers, I only use one, and I position it 45 degrees to either side of me. Typically to the right side, because that's the way I like the catch lights in their eyes.
Yeah.
But for families, I'll use two. I'll use an umbrella 45 to my right and a softbox 45 to my left. I have my softbox up higher, probably around about 6.5 feet up. And then my umbrella is about 4 to 5 foot high.
Awesome. Do you ever do any natural light photography, or do you always use your studio lights?
I do outside, and if I have a client that has a newborn session and they have great natural light, I am absolutely going to utilize it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, light, using flash is wonderful, but it does add some complexity to it, which I have nowhere near mastering yet. If you get, in studio flash working for you, Kathleen, do you use any in studio flash? I can't remember.
No, I mean, I have in the past. I really try not to. If I have to use it, I'll bounce it.
Yeah.
But I prefer to crank my ISO if I need to.
I struggle with it. So I think if you're going to use it, it's something that you really got to practice beforehand. It's something you can't really learn at the time of the shoot. Was that what you found, Morgan? No. That it's something you had to play with at first, or did you just jump right into it?
It took me probably about 6 months or so to really learn what I was doing and to know what I needed to do, depending on the session.
Right, because every session is going to be different with the whole family. You're lighting more people, and then they're going to be taller from the ground to your light source. Newborns is one subject, much lower to the ground. So yeah, it would be different. Jenny asks, it says, say you have your light to the right. Do you want the subject head facing you on the left or the right?
I want the subject facing straight ahead.
Okay.
So, does that mean the middle, sort of?
I think what...
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
light
I will
is
have my
hitting on
lights.
the side of the face, right?
Correct. I'll have the lights on either side, 45 to me, and the subject and I facing each other.
Okay.
Because whenever you think about it, if you go outside and if you have fantastic, wonderful lighting, you'll notice that the catch lights are in the top right or top left corner of the eye. They aren't straight on.
Right. So if you're trying to implement making it look like natural light, you want to make your catch lights be in the same location, or it's going to be obvious that you're using studio lighting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, one of the questions we had earlier, I haven't seen it out in chat, but I saw it, I think, on Facebook, was how do you, when you're not in studio, when you're out in the field, how are you choosing your locations?
It's dependent on the client. I typically give them a choice. I have examples of each location, and each location has a style to it. So there's one place that's downtown that's very urban and funky, and then I have another place that's very dreamy and whimsical. I have another that is extremely country, and then I have very streamlined places that are very modern. So I give the clients the option based on their personal style, because it's definitely not. I'm not photographing myself for my personal style. I want them to be themselves wherever they're at, and I want it to fit in with their lives.
Yeah, are you doing it at certain times of day with these locations, or can you work it out just about any time of the day?
I could work it out any time of day, but typically I want to make it easy on myself and my clients. I usually give them different time options. I say this location is absolute best at this time and this time, and typically they make it work. They want the product that is the very best, and although I am capable of doing it other ways, I know what time is best for that location, and they make time to be at the location during the best times.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think the person who was asking, I can't remember who it was, but you know, as you choose your locations, think about the time of day you want to shoot in that location. You know, which way is the sun coming in from at the different time of the day. So you may have to check it out, you know, morning, afternoon, and evening, or late, not evening, not night, but you know, into the day. Another question that somebody had out in chat was, or you know, when you're shooting in studio, do you have a dedicated room in your house, or are you able to set this up in a customer's house, your lights and all that, or how are you doing?
They are. My equipment is very easy to move, so I have the option to take it to my client's house, which is fantastic, especially since I do photograph newborns. But I do have a dedicated room in my home. I have a second living room that I'm able to utilize that has nothing in it but a couch. Yeah.
You mentioned the lights earlier, Kathleen. I think Morgan told us last time she was on, but what were the lights that you have again?
The Square Perfect 4200 set.
Yeah. So it's what is it? What's all in the set, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, so much stuff.
Or just general. You don't have to, not every little thing.
The main things, it comes with the background, 3 muslins, 3 stands, 2 light stands, a boom stand, soft boxes, white and silver umbrella, reflector, gels, filters, other lighting accessories like the honeycombs and the barn doors, and so many different things.
No, that's a good set. That's a big set. Wow.
Yeah, that is.
It's a complete studio set. You don't need anything other than extra backgrounds.
Now, I also saw on your website that your style is to use a lot of the backdrops and the floor drops. Where are you getting your floor drops and backdrops from? Do you have a favorite spot?
I absolutely love Bad Sass. Main reason is because you can do the tri-splits and the they're canvas, and they're really extremely sturdy, and really all I have to do is put the background on the on the top of the stand, and then bring it up to the height of the backdrop part of the backdrop, and then pop my baseboard in with the clamps, and I'm good to go. I don't have anything else to do. I don't have to worry about the floor slipping, nothing like that. I don't have to worry about it being moved, or if the kid runs into the backdrop stand. It's fantastic.
What was the name of that again?
Bad Sass.
Bad
Sass.
And Morgan, I think you mentioned last time you shoot with a 35 millimeter lens, 35-1.8.
Yes.
Oh, I don't have it within reach. I should have had it within reach. Upon your recommendation, I went and bought that lens. I love that lens.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
It is fantastic. Yes. So it's the Nikon 35 millimeter f1.8, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is, and that's a DX lens. There is the 2.2 Nikon 35 millimeter f2.2. That's a little bit more expensive. It's over $300, I believe, and it's the full frame lens. So you can go that route if you have a full frame camera. But I'm using it on my D2X, and I am loving that lens. Getting some great. I'm not getting anything as good as you are, because obviously it's not the camera and lens. But I'm using it for my son's swim meets, not for the action shots, but for the candids up close, and they're just fantastic. I mean, I've even had a number of kids say, "Mr. Howard, your camera takes wonderful photos."
Oh.
Yeah, that's always my favorite comment. It makes me wonder if someone would ever ask Chef Ramsay what kind of pots and pans he uses, because he's such a good chef.
I know.
Yeah, so I've gotten that comment, but they're high school kids, so while it irks me a little bit, I just yeah, it does. My camera takes excellent photos. I'm just glad it lets me come along.
Right.
There you go.
Morgan, what do you use for white balancing?
Mm-hmm.
What do you use for white balancing? Do you do a custom white balance, or do you use your camera's presets?
Typically, most of the time I use auto white balance, unless I do have a dominant color that is going to completely throw my white balance off. Within my studio, though, I know what my lights are. I know the white balance that they give, so I have a preset for that already. But if I'm outside on location, especially chasing toddlers, I can't actually change the white balance every time they decide to turn around.
Right, exactly.
There was a question out there. Oh, how about paper backdrop sets? You use the muslins, but have you had any experience with paper ones?
Actually, sometimes I will have a client that says, my child photographs really well with, say, purple or yellow, and if I don't have that on hand in time for the session, I will go down to the local teacher supply store, and I will get the bulletin board paper. Works fine.
Wow, bulletin board paper. Yeah, because you only need it as big as the whatever you're taking a photo of.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what's right outside of the camera's view. Mm-hmm. And that's why we may not all have a big room in our house to make a massive studio, but you just need enough room to put however many people you're going to photograph inside of that, and then have enough distance where you can back up. So how much distance do you think that is? You need room for the backdrop, for the person you're photographing, the subject, and then space between them and you. Yeah, in your room, how much room do you have?
In my extra room, I have about 15 feet. In my client's house, I can get away with about 6-7 feet.
And I bet it's that 35 millimeter that's helping you out.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, this past weekend I had a photo shoot at a client's house for a newborn, and the best light they had through the whole house was in the kitchen. And I probably had 4 feet, and I had my beanbag and my blanket and prop the blanket up on top of the kitchen countertop with heavy items, and there you go. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and I recommend the 50 all the time as a good lens for somebody starting off. But sometimes that 50 is just a little too zoomed in. If you don't have enough space, that 50 is not going to work. And you need something like that 35. And if you go, at some point, if you keep going wider and wider, you're going to start getting distortions. But I don't know about what you've found, Morgan. So far, what I've done with that 35, I have not seen any distortions, any edge distortions where people look like they're looking weird.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes if my daughter gets right on the camera, like the very minimum that it will focus on, and she gets there, it definitely doesn't look like her.
Yeah, I notice it all the time. I have a 12 to 24 lens also. And when you're at 12, yeah.
Oh, it shows a lot of distortion in
that.
It
can do a lot of distortion, yes. So it's not necessarily that great of a portrait lens. I've been really loving the 35, though. Kathleen, you look like you had a question.
No.
Oh.
I didn't.
Sorry. So, okay, Morgan, so what else you up to? Got the workshops? You always have the very, very, very popular F-Stop Frenzy group on Facebook.
Yes. Well, as far as workshops, I do have 2 more that I'm working on. One for Photoshop Elements and one for the full Photoshop for editing portraits.
Yeah. Sorry.
That'll be great.
I cough without muting. Crap. No, that would be excellent because not everybody uses Photoshop, the full Photoshop. Everybody can't afford that. So doing one in Photoshop Elements I think you have a lot of people who would be interested in that. That'd be great. How long does it typically take you to put together a full workshop? That seems like a lot of work to get one of those up and running.
It depends. I have a few friends of mine that are photographers that I ask them to proof it every so often. Because for me, it's like trying to explain how to breathe. It's so hard sometimes to make sure I cover everything because, how do you explain how to breathe? It's just something that comes naturally to me, at this point that I have to slow it down, and I have all this information. I'm constantly jotting notes down whenever I'm focusing on making one. And I have an entire notepad dedicated to each workshop of notes that I want to cover on it. It takes me probably around a month or so to do it.
That's still pretty fast. I'm an accountant by trade, and I can do numbers all day long, but writing up stuff, I stink at it, and I'm slow. So I'm impressed that you're able to put that whole thing together in a month. That's really good.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
So going back to your other workshop. So let's say if Tim or I took it, we take photos, you're going to critique our photos. What level of critiquing are you going to do? Is it going to be like sharpness, white balance? Is it going to be anything on the angle or anything like that? Can you tell me more about how you'd beat us down?
Well, the last one that I critiqued, I told her the things that were good, such as the eyes were in focus, which was the lesson, to make sure to nail the focus. But then I gave that, you maybe need to get down a little bit more, change the perspective to make it tell more of a story. I try to give an overall critique over the technical and the artistic issues, so that it's not such a snapshot and more of an actual emotionally connected image.
Yep. And that seems like a great segue into one of my tips for the show. Because you said something about the perspective, right? Mm-hmm. Getting a different perspective on a shot. And I meant to do this as my tip last week. But this is my tip this week. And then we'll come back to what you're talking about. Is a knee pad. And that doesn't sound like what do you need a knee pad for photography? I went out to Lowe's and bought I think these were $4, 2 of these cheap knee pads, and put them in my camera bag. They they're small. I can crunch them up and stick them into my bag. This last weekend, I was at my son's swim meet, and I said, you know what? I'm going to put one of these things one of my knees under my blue jeans, and no one will know that I'm wearing it. Well, you might know if you look there, but nobody's really paying attention to me. And because I had that, it was so easy to just kneel down. I had pool deck access, so I was able to get there, kneel down, and take shots of the kids as they're in the pool swimming. And these are high school boys and girls. And that gave such a different perspective, because on some of the shots, because I was using a 70-200 lens, on some of the shots it looked like I was in the water with them. It's like because they're a little bit further away, and I was able to zoom right in. You're thinking, what was that dude doing? Is he in the pool with them? And it's all because of the perspective. I looked at so many other parents' photos, and they're standing up on the pool deck shooting down.
Right, and all they're getting is the back of their heads.
Well, some of the photos that they took were pretty good, but the angles were all a different angle, and that is a different perspective. The one perspective doesn't always work, but I was able to get up and down and kneel down, and after kneeling for a couple of hours, you're gonna be glad you had these knee pads.
Yeah.
And I originally bought them because as often I'm kneeling down to take a photo and I'm on rocks or something like that, and I didn't necessarily want to wear it, but I can just set it down and then kneel in it. This is the case where I actually, wore it. So that's my tip for today. Get yourself a pair of cheap knee pads and put them in your camera bag. At least
they're easily folded up. Also, they don't take up room. You can squeeze them into the bag, and it protects your equipment.
That's true.
Yeah, it does add a little bit of cushion. And I wouldn't use these for like if you're putting tile in your house and you're going to be kneeling down for all day long. You might want something a little better than this. But this is a good way to protect your knee from, rocks or just
little incidental times.
Just like in my case, your own weight. So you're going to critique us on perspective and all that kind of stuff, and what else?
Well, not necessarily critiquing on perspective, but to kind of put a little idea in your head that maybe try it from a different angle next time. Change the story. Also, the technical aspects specifically on the current lesson and lessons that have already passed, because I definitely don't want someone to focus on only one lesson at a time. I want it to be building blocks. I want them to work on one thing first and then work on the next one and then apply the first one. It's going to be on the technical aspects of everything covered thus far. And also some things will be jumping a little ahead of time, and I'll let them know that I will be getting into that later and covering that subject more in depth so that they're able to fully recognize that they will need to work on it. And that way, when we do get to that lesson, it will click in their head and they'll say, oh, now I understand what she's saying.
That's great. I have 2 more questions for you, Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed on your website that there is a space where it says, what are your rates? And if you click it, it goes to a page that says, this page is no longer here. Are you intentionally not listing your prices on your website? And if so, why?
Hold on. I actually took my pricing down because it will not be the same pricing I have when I come back.
That's smart. That's good. And then my other question was, besides your lenses and your camera, what's the one thing that you keep in your camera bag that you can't live without?
Besides my camera and my lenses.
Besides your camera and your lenses.
And I can only pick one.
You can give us 5. How about that?
Or however many.
Okay, I can do 5. One is my lens friend.
Lens?
Because yes, it's a little thing that goes on the lens, and mine looks like a crab, and it has little googly eyes, and it makes the kids, especially toddlers, look into the lens.
They're also called lens buddies. You can find them online, and they're typically, I see confusion look all over Mike's face. It's a scrunchie basically that they've added googly eyes and like funky hair and arms and legs, and you pop it right over your lens so the child looks right at the lens.
Cool. I think, this is a great question. After Morgan gives us hers, we should go around the room here and give our, what's our best, what's our things in our camera bag that we like the most. So Morgan, there's one.
Yes. I also need a bottle of water.
Okay.
Definitely need a bottle of water. Actually, I bring a bottle of water for each person that I'm photographing.
Oh, that's good.
Yes. I also usually have some sort of towel because inevitably the dad will sweat and he needs to wipe his sweat. I also bring tissues because inevitably the child will have a runny nose or cry or any number of little oopsies and mess things. And I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, that's good. Okay, Kathleen, how about you?
Two things. I always have baby wipes with me, which would be the same as Morgan's tissues because there's always a boogie or something that needs to be wiped. And then chapstick. I cannot go on a photo shoot without having my chapstick with me.
Is that for you or for them?
Oh, it's for me.
Oh, okay. Okay, Tim, how about you? Tim, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
Tim's been writing a lot of show notes, so he probably didn't want us to hear his keyboard.
And I had people walking in and out of the house upstairs, so the alarm kept going on and off. One of the things I always walk with, it's like a pen where I don't even know what it's called. I press a little slide and a brush comes out, and on the other side is a lens cleaner. And you're probably reaching for it because you probably have it also.
What? I've never heard of this.
I am reaching for it.
I am making the biggest mistake of all. I'm always using the underside of my shirt to wipe my lens off.
Oh,
I know.
no.
I do have lens caps on, but still, the lens covers. I mean,
So I don't know
That's
if you guys,
exactly it right there.
I don't know if
That's
you guys
one
can
side
see
of it.
that. That's one side. So this you would actually what I do is I, breathe on my lens to create a little bit of mist on there,
right.
fog on there, and then use that end of the pen to.
It's like a little squeegee.
And,
All right, what is it called?
it's called Sunpack Lens Pen.
Lens pen, that's
Oh.
But before I do that, I use this end of it. It kind of comes in and out. There's a little slide. I use that end of it to get any little particles off. You brush the little particles off. And then this end of it is what you use to clean it.
That's awesome.
So,
Good
sorry.
one, Tim. I'm adding that to my Christmas list.
And it's fairly cheap. Fairly cheap. Okay, so was that one or two for you, Tim?
That's my one. I'm hoping to have another one after Christmas, but I won't say it because my wife is listening. So hopefully I get it. She knows what it is.
Okay. All right, so I have the same thing as Tim. I have the little Sunpack lens pen. I have the rocket blower. This
That
is like,
thing makes me nervous.
Yeah, I never
looks like-
used it.
is it because it looks like a giant baby booger getter or something?
I don't. Well,
I'm afraid to put anything inside my camera to clean the
I
sensor.
am too.
Well, yeah, it's not just for that. You can use this to blow stuff off your lens too.
Okay,
It's
I
got a
didn't think of
lot of
that.
power. Not
I was
that you
thinking
can
that.
see the power here, but it has a lot of power. And I have used it inside, not in the field, to hold my camera upside down and blow some of the stuff out of it. But yeah, it is a little bit. You gotta be careful with it. So that's that. Of course, I already showed you the knee pad, which is one of my new favorites. And then, of course, one of my real favorites, and let me get it out, because I keep everything in plastic bags on my camera in case it gets wet, is my gray card. I love the gray
still
card.
need to either get that or the
The Weibel? I think I mentioned the Weibel last time. I got a lot of little goodies here. And this is what the Weibel looks like. So it's a little business card size.
Okay.
And if y'all can see that, it's got two shades of gray. One is a 75% gray and one's 65%. Then it's got, the white one in a black. So what you would do is have somebody who's you're taking a photo in the light you're taking a photo in, they would hold this, near them. And then later in Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever your editing program is, you have gray, you have white, and you have black. So you can use this to really help set your exposure and your white balance, especially if you're shooting in RAW.
Those little cards are fantastic for making a preset levels adjustment.
Yeah, and it comes with a little lanyard, so you can wear it around your neck if you wanted to. I don't, but you could. And then it detaches. The little thing detaches. It's fairly cheap. Of course, a grade card is really cheap too. I think everything I've shown you here is in this group is really cheap.
Yeah, I don't think any of them were $10.
And if you're a Lightroom fan and you got Scott Kelby's book on Lightroom, you don't even need to go buy a grade card. In the back of his book, he has a grade card. You can just rip it out of the back of the book. It's perforated, so you can take it out of the book, and then you just use this instead. It's not quite as sturdy, but it still will hold up pretty well. So there's mine. That was good. That was a great question. Was that your first question or second question?
I don't remember.
And somebody, I think Morgan answered this out in chat, but somebody asked the question, Morgan, do you do your own taxes and accounting, or do you have someone else do them?
I do them. My parents own their own business, and they taught me everything about all the taxes and everything. And my stepmom does it, and my grandma does it, and everyone does it. And so they taught me from a very young age how to do it myself. So I organize everything once a month so that it streamlines the process whenever real time comes.
Do you use any kind of accounting package, or just keep track of it in a spreadsheet or something like that, or what do you do?
Spreadsheet.
Okay.
I like to have everything paper in my hand, and I print everything out twice and write everything. It's a mess, but it works for me.
See, if I had that many people in my family that knew how to do my taxes, that'd be my reason for not learning how to do it.
Yeah, really.
No, they showed me how to do it so I could do it.
Well, I'm an accountant by trade, and so as soon as people hear that, oh, can you do my taxes? No, I do not. Do not do other people's taxes. I'm a corporate accountant, and I have the tax department reports to me, but I hate taxes.
Yeah,
I hate you do your own taxes though.
I hate dealing with the government. We're dealing with the government right now. When you get to be a big company, they come in and audit you all the time. So we have an auditor in there now, and she came in September, and we asked her how long she thinks she'd take. She said, I should be done by March or April.
Oh, man.
You got to be kidding me. March or April? What are you doing, napping? So anyway, the other question, this one is probably pertinent to anybody starting a business, and that is how do you market it? Even, now at this stage, you're doing the workshops and maybe not as many actual shoots, but even the workshops, how do you market them? And then back when
I find out where my clients are, whether it is workshops or portrait sessions. I find out who they are, what type of person they are, what they do, how old they are, their income level. I figure out my ideal client, and I put myself in their path. The example I gave someone the other day was that my clients are in their late 20s, early 30s. They have 1 to 3 kids, mostly 7 and under. They work out at the gym. They take their kids to ice cream. They have a clean, streamlined, modern personality and style. So I design my cards, my business cards, to fit that, and I go to the places that they will frequent, and I put my cards in their path so that whenever they are just casually seeing, something new like business cards at a place they see all the time, they're going to pick it up. They're going to get curious, and they're going to start, looking at what I have to offer. And typically it goes from there.
Okay. Kathleen, how about you?
I'm sorry?
How about you, Kathleen? My voice was cutting out there for a second.
Basically along the same lines as what Morgan does. I'm not quite as involved as she is. My photography business just kind of happened. It started out with me being a hobby photographer, and then people just asking me if I would do things for them, and then me realizing that I needed to charge. And then 9 years later, Obviously my prices have grown since then and my clients have grown since then. I'm very much in the same boat as Morgan in the sense that my kids are young. And so I limit myself to 4 photo shoots tops a month.
Well, one of the things Morgan has said, I think she probably said this more than once, and I'm just now picking up on it, is, you're kind of stopping what you're the photo side now, and you're going to bring it back, and you've learned from lessons that you did the first time. You want to bring it back right, or can't remember exactly how you said that. Can you share a few of those things that you learned the first time around that you want to change when you do it again? Like what do you think was the biggest thing that you learned from it?
Primarily offering CDs is not a good thing.
Offering CDs is not a good thing. Okay.
For what I want my clients to have wall galleries in their homes. I don't want them to sit on the disc forever. I don't want that disc to eventually be thrown out. That's wasted money. I want them to print these images, hang them on their walls, and keep them forever. I want them to pass it down to their children. I want 3 generations from now for them to be looking through an old shoebox and see pictures of their great-great-grandparents and, revel in how much so-and-so looks like them. So putting them on a CD it's kind of irrelevant to the whole photography thing, since they're not going to be printed. Will probably sit in a shoebox somewhere, and the CD will eventually deteriorate so much that it's rendered unusable, or CDs won't be around anymore, and they'll be like VHSs, and no one uses them.
Yeah. So a couple things there. So did you get a lot of people requesting CDs before?
I do. Well, I don't mind watermarking images and having them share with their family, because being in a military community, most of my clients.
Oh, I think we just lost them.
I still be able to
I think you're cutting in and out more.
Share it with their family, and that's fine, but I still don't want to sit in a shoebox.
Right. And you mentioned the deterioration of the CD. I think that's I've said it before. I think I've said it on the show. I know I've said it in your group on Facebook, but that's something that people don't always think about. The CDs or DVDs that you're buying in the store to burn, either to give to your clients or to use as backup. A lot of people use DVDs or CDs as their backup of their photos. Those things will not last. They have a shelf life of maybe 3 to 5 years at most before you're going to start deteriorating. The digital data is going to start to deteriorate to the point where you can't get everything off of it.
Exactly.
Now, do you keep spare copies on a hard drive at home that if somebody comes back to you 5 years from now and says, you know what, I lost my photos, do you have something that I can make pictures of? Do you keep that?
I do. I have them loaded on my external hard drive, as well as backed up on CDs that I redo. I redo the CDs every 2 years. So that they are there, because I would hate for someone to have lost all their images, let's say in a house fire, and if someone passes away and they don't have them anymore.
Okay, so that's a big lesson from the first time you're out. Anything else, or anything that you want to do different this time around?
Price myself where I really need to be. To make it such a profitable business that I can create a storefront and make it the crazy awesome experience that I want it to be.
Yeah, and you're willing to do that even if it means that you'll lose some clients.
Absolutely. Well, my clients rotate out every couple of years anyway.
True. But I think that's a good point, because if you continue to chase the bottom line, you're going to eventually you're just going to price yourself out of it, where you can't do that as a job. You can't do that as a business if you just keep chasing the bottom dollar. Because we had a couple of people talk about taxes. That's just one of the things as a pro you have to pay taxes. Maybe not everybody. Insurance. Not everybody can do their own accounting. Actual gear. And a thing that people often forget about is your time. If you did all this and you made enough money to pay your taxes, your insurance, your gear, I forgot what else you just said, but if you got to pay all those things and that was it, then what's the point?
Right.
Exactly.
You know, if you do all this and break even, what's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah, there is no point. I remember for myself, I sat down and was at a point, this was actually last year, this time, and I had been told by numerous good friend photographers that my prices need to go up. And I knew it too because, you know, I felt burnout. And when I actually sat down and did the math, I think I was making $2.50 an hour. And I was like, I would never accept a job for $2.50 an hour. And, you know, here I am taking my kids and putting them with babysitters so I can make $2.50 an hour. It's just not worth it. So I had a pretty big price change. And it wasn't just a price change, it was a whole structural change this time last year. And it will continue to change as my photography evolves.
How did clients respond to that?
I didn't have any ugliness, and that was the reason that's the thing that kept me back for the longest time. Either they didn't say anything at all, or they would say, I am so glad to see that you finally have found more value in yourself. We knew that this day was coming and we wish you the best. So there was no backlash at all. I mean, yeah, there were some people who couldn't afford me anymore, but they were happy to see me progress nonetheless. And then for every person that could no longer afford my services, there were 5 more that found me and could. So
That's
there was
good.
nothing more but positive that
Good.
came from it for me.
Yeah, I think it's you got to think about that a lot. You know, where is my price is too high, my price is too low, and also think about your quality. I mean, I think with both Morgan and you, Kathleen, the quality is not an issue. You guys have nailed the quality. You both are excellent photographers. If you're just starting off, and you really need to get somebody else's feedback, you need to do something like Morgan's workshops where you're getting some honest feedback. Posting something in a forum, often you say, what do y'all think about this photo? And most people are not going to give you honest feedback because they don't. It's hard to give somebody feedback in text that you don't know, you know, typing something like that. And you know, so you're just going to say, oh, it's good. You know, no, I love that. Or are you going to search for something in that photo to give them positive feedback on? And that person really hasn't learned anything because of that. So I think if you're just starting off, taking a workshop like Morgan's where you're going to get some honest feedback, and you know, like Morgan said, she's going to tell you what's right too, is a very important.
Well, and I think that no matter how good you get as a photographer, there's always someone better. And so I'm constantly looking for people who I feel like I could learn something from in the photography business. And so I think that if you ever get to a point where you've stopped looking for someone who you think is superior to you in that area, then you're frozen. I'm constantly looking for somebody who's, you know, 5 steps ahead of me so I can figure out what I can change or do better or evolve.
But you know, that's one of the reasons I started this whole show is because I can have people like Morgan and Tim and Kathleen on, so I can learn from them.
You can send my $60 to Kathleen Bowie Photography.
Yeah, I'll send your $60 to Kathleen Bowie. You got to give it to me first, then I'll send it to you.
Come on.
You want me to send my $60?
Right.
So
You
when
try to get that out of an accountant.
at the beginning of the show, I might not have mentioned I got a new truck, and they required a lot of my money.
Yeah.
So you know, it was funny about that. I didn't even tell my wife. She came home and said, "Is that a rental?"
Yeah.
I said, "Nope, that's my new truck."
You didn't tell her?
We had been talking about it for a while, so it's not quite as bad as it sounds.
Oh,
and she had been
man.
saying I need to get one for a while, but yeah.
My husband better not do that unless there was a bow on top of it and it's for me.
Now, does that really happen?
And he won the lottery.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mike, I hope your wife isn't driving around in an old car now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, she has a 99 Sienna, so it is getting a little bit old, but I had a 93 4Runner, so I was.
And yours was on the side of the road.
Mine was on the side of the road. I was hoping Kathleen's husband, who's a police officer for our area, would not come and tow it away, but it wasn't a church.
Right.
And I actually did meet the pastor the next morning when I was having it towed.
See, God is leading you, Mike. I'm telling you.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? We've gone past the hour now. Any other questions for Morgan? Morgan, are your kids in bed?
They're about to be.
I know they were probably a distraction for you earlier, but all three of us, Kathleen, Tim, and I, we've all had kids, so we understand.
Yes, we do.
No problem at all. Bad. Somebody's saying out there, bad move, Mike. No, my wife is fine with it. I made it sound worse than it is. She knew that my truck needed to be replaced, and she was on me because she was always worried, am I going to make it to work? Am I going to make it home from work? So it's fine.
All right.
I do
holding you accountable.
I do not like having it's been since '99 since that thing's been paid off. So I'm not fond of having a car note.
No,
I don't know how we got on the subject. How do we get back on the subject again? I don't know. Any other questions for Morgan? Let's see, Morgan, when is your next workshop? Morgan already answered that, January 15th. And then again on March 1st, she has another one. And you mentioned you're working on the Photoshop one and the Photoshop Elements one. And I imagine you'll just post it on your website when those are ready. So be watching on our website. I think we covered just about all the questions that they had out there for Morgan. Morgan, did we
tried to cover everything?
Did we cover everything you wanted to talk about, Morgan?
I believe so.
Okay. Kathleen?
We're good to go, Morgan. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show again, and we wish you the best with your family and with your photography business in the future.
Thanks for having me back.
I spent a lot of time with the children. That's, like you said, that's time you cannot regain. My son's 10 years old, and I'm not looking forward to the point where he's 13, 14 and older, where it's the less snuggle time with daddy. So take it now while you can.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, Tim. Mine are 12 and 6, almost 16. The end of this month, he'll be 16. December 31st. So I did get that tax deduction.
Of course you did.
That's
push.
That's fitting for an accountant. So yeah, they're there now, and they don't. My 16-year-old, although he is talking to me now, he's interested in girls, wanting my opinion on how to, ask a girl out. Of course, he tells me I don't know anything.
For you.
He tells me I don't know anything about what I'm talking about, but then he asks for my opinion. So yeah, it is important to spend time with them. Both Kathleen and Morgan both have young children. And Tim, yours is younger than mine, but it's important to do that. And Morgan, we'd love to have you back sometime in the future too. And at some point, maybe we can have you come back and talk about your new workshops when you have those out. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And I'll always remember Morgan because that 35 millimeter lens, I just love that lens that I've been using so much. And that was a great tip that I learned from. Okay, I think that is it for this week. Next week, we have Rachel is coming back on. If you all know awesome. Rachel Brinke. And the week after that, what is the week after that? I don't know. 20th. Right now, we don't have anybody scheduled for that one, but we'll work on that one. Then the 27th, I think I have another guest. I'm not going to say who it is yet. We have another guest. And we have to think about how we're going to handle around Christmas. I don't know what your plans are, Tim.
I should be home most of those Tuesdays. I'm home.
But I would like to mention, since we still have a few people out there, if you're looking here in chat, below chat, there's a little ad there. The ads that came up in the stream have nothing to do with me. That's because I'm using live stream, and that's how they pay for it. There's a little ad down there. Mine happens to be an ad for a 2011 Tundra, which is, I got a 2012 Tundra. It's probably, this is a Google ad, so whatever you've searched on, somehow they track you and they know what your likes are. So you probably don't have the new 2011 Tundra ad that I do. But that's one of the ways the show, we help pay for the show, is all you have to do is click on that ad. It'll take you somewhere, so don't do it yet. It'll take you to whatever that ad is, and you don't even have to buy it or do anything like that. Just click on the ad, and we get a little bit of revenue there. We're still working on Kathleen on being a permanent co-host.
I'm working my way towards it.
So anybody who wants to email her and pressure her, feel free. You can send it to me at podcast@jpeg2RAW.com, and I will forward your request on to help put pressure on Kathleen. And we're willing to work with her and try and help her out and make some minor adjustments maybe to show to fit in with what Kathleen's got going on. And I do appreciate Tim. Tim does a wonderful job of writing show notes. He muted earlier because not only do we have people going in and out, but he is feverishly writing show notes.
I'm wondering, Tim and Mike, do you guys have links to where we can go and see some of your guys' photography work?
Yes, mine. I'll put it here in chat, and there is a blog, but I am bad and keeping up with it, so don't worry about going there.
And I'll add mine, but I'll be embarrassed by mine.
Don't be embarrassed. Awesome, because we know we all want to see it.
Yeah, and I have put up some recently of the swimming that I've done, and keep in mind, so I have to give caveats here. I am shooting it with a little bit older camera, so it's not quite as good an ISO as maybe Kathleen's, but I'm shooting it like ISO 1600, and it is horrible in those pool areas. But
especially the lighting in there too.
This past weekend, you know what I had? This past weekend, I walk in and go, I thought this was supposed to be a good gym. This is even worse. But it's because we got there at like 6:30 in the morning.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, so the thing started. Well, as the morning went on, they had some windows and light just started pouring in.
Yeah.
So I've got a shot of a girl. So I was having to. I know you guys all shooting manual, and you guys are so much better than me because I can't do it. But
I probably wouldn't have done manual on that though.
This girl, so you swim your thing, you come around the pool, you come back toward me. So I said, oh, look at that. There's a bright spot right there. When the sun's coming through, I'm going to take people as they hit that bright spot. Right. So I did that, and I got crazy, exposure problems. They were just completely blown out. So I said, I'm going to switch to spot metering, and I'm going to spot meter. So I got a shot of a girl. You may be able to see it there if you go to this, but you probably have to weed through a lot of junk to get there. It looks like somebody has got a spotlight on her because I used the spot meter. I have her, and like everything else is almost blacked out because the exposure difference between when they hit that light and when they weren't in that light was probably 4 or 5 stops of like that. And when she came through that, it just looked like a spotlight. I also have another one where a big, tall male swimmer is standing there, and he's halfway in the light and halfway out of the light. And he's kind of his eyes closed with his head down, sort of like he's unhappy about whatever his swim he just did. And I thought that's pretty interesting because it looks like the two halves.
Wow.
Morgan, did we just lose you?
I think we might have lost Morgan.
We might have lost Morgan.
She's had it with us.
Well, I hated to have her go.
These are some nice pictures, Mike.
Yeah, Mike, they're great.
Are y'all there?
Yeah, we're looking at it right now. They're really good.
Which ones are you looking at?
You have page 8, so page 8 of 8 I'm on.
Are you looking at the newest swim meet, the versus Mill Creek?
Yeah.
It's not the latest.
The link that she put up, or one of the chatters put up. That's where I am.
That's correct. That's where I went.
Mill Creek, I guess that's the most recent one I did. Yeah, North Gwinnett High School versus Mill Creek, and you will eventually come across the one where the girl looks like she's in a spotlight.
These parents are so fortunate to have you at their games. Seriously.
How many people show up there with little pointed shoe cameras and think they're going to get good pictures?
Yeah, they're not.
Oh yeah, tons.
Very
well, not everybody can get access to the pool deck because that's one of the things is not everybody's getting access to the pool deck.
Walking with a big camera, they let you in.
Well, yeah, I'm friends with I'm one of the dads. My son is on there, so
right.
What they did, they generally rotate the photographers. One parent, okay, this is your week to do it, and
okay.
So they didn't have anybody for week 1, and they let me do it, and then the lady the head mom said, hey, you can do this anytime you want.
Yeah, because your photos are coming out so great.
So what I'm doing is now whoever was scheduled to do it, they do it too. So
okay.
we're doing it together, and it's been great because I go over and talk to the lady and say, talk to whoever's doing it, and I help them out. She had a D90, the last lady, and she said, I'm having all kind of problems. And I said, oh, try this, and help her out. And she goes, oh yeah, that works much better. So, it's been fun for me talking to them and helping them get better shots.
Mike, okay, photo number 111.
Yeah.
That is epic. That is beautiful. It's just a boy, and he's standing there, and his eyes are closed, and his hands are across his chest, and one side of him is completely blacked out. That is beautiful.
That's what I was talking about. See how crazy the light difference was?
Oh, it's amazing. That's an epic shot right there. That's beautiful.
And
I like that.
Thank you very much. And I obviously was spot metering on the light side of him. That's why the dark side looks so dark. It's just
I love it.
Crazy.
Perfect.
And actually, his mom was the other photographer for that day.
I would have this huge in my son's room if this were my son. That is such a cool moment.
And I think the shot right after that, 112, is that girl that almost looks like she has a spotlight on her.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So cool. You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you.
Now, this is through SmugMug. How do you like it?
Oh, I love SmugMug. Yeah. I have the paid account, which I think is like $35 a year.
I pay probably about close to that for Flickr, and Flickr hasn't done anything in the past 3 or 4 years, so I'm kind of losing interest in it.
So the team has their photos up on Shutterfly. So in Lightroom, I have a plug-in for Shutterfly and for SmugMug. So when I'm done doing the edits, and I just do some quick edits. These are not heavily edited. I just do some quick edits. And then I add them into a gallery on SmugMug, add them into a gallery on Shutterfly, and then hit publish, and bam, it sends them both there, all right through Lightroom.
That's great.
It does the resizing and whatever else is needed.
That's awesome. Very cool.
I say, I like the action shots, but I also tend to like the candid shots.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I said this before too, that one of the girls kept saying, why you keep taking pictures of me? Like, I'm sorry, I can't tell you from the other girls. I didn't necessarily tell her that.
You're all in swimsuits, and that's all I know.
Well, I guess we need to let...
taking pictures of somebody who's at the swim meet doing something, you're good to go.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess we need to let Kathleen go and Tim go.
Yes.
And being in chat. Thanks, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you, everybody.
Lost Morgan a little bit earlier, but thanks, Morgan, for coming. I don't know if she may still be out there in chat or something. Thanks, Morgan, for coming. Thanks, everybody, and join us next week.
Bye, guys.